Is the media downplaying the Trump assassination attempt? And why were photogs at Trump's rally running into the line of fire? Plus, the iconic photo of Trump as he was being manhandled off stage. Welcome to Newspeak, I'm Kellum. So, just like the weeks after the debate were dominated by coverage of Biden, now it's wall-to-wall coverage of Trump. Except, of course, for Biden getting COVID. May he get better soon. So first, a 20-year-old, who I shall not name because I don't want to be part of the problem, tried to assassinate Trump at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on Saturday. Then Judge Eileen Cannon dismissed the documents case against Trump on Monday, saying special counsel Jack Smith's appointment wasn't legitimate. And also on Monday, Trump announced that J.D. Vance, a senator from Ohio, would be his running mate. And on Thursday, Trump spoke at the Republican National Convention, where he has officially been chosen as the Republican Party's nominee. So if you were sick of hearing all about Biden's age, well, now you get to hear about Trump, except for the occasional story about Democrats pressuring Biden to step aside. Those will probably continue. Now, going back to the assassination attempt, there were a few things that stood out to me from a media angle. The first is the incredible footage that came out of this. Now, Trump is the presumptive Republican nominee, so of course there were tons of news cameras there. But what struck me in this particular instance is the fireman-like reflexes the photographers in the front row had. As people were screaming and shots were ringing out, you can see them circling the stage, which at that point was still, for all they knew, a target of an active shooter. Probably the photog with the best shot, though, was this woman. While shots were still ringing out, she's watching it all through her phone as if capturing it on video. If anyone can find her, I'd love to see that video. Of the footage that has been made public, though, there are a few iconic shots that I predict will go down in the Media Hall of Fame. And in fact, some are even speculating that they could alter the course of the campaign, which I'm not sure what I think about. Let me know in the comments what you think. One is this photo from New York Times photographer Doug Mills. Mills was one of the photographers who ignored the warnings to get down when shots rang out and ran toward the action. He says it was the words of his former colleague Ron Edmonds that propelled him forward. Edmonds was an AP photographer who won a Pulitzer Prize for images he took of the assassination attempt of Ronald Reagan in 1981.
He said, when it happened, I just instinctively went forward rather than backwards. And that always stuck with me, that go forwards, don't go backwards.
Mills and other photographers also grabbed these iconic images of Trump with the American flag behind him, blood on his face, and defiantly pumping his fist while he yells, "Fight." It almost looks staged the way Trump broke free from the Secret Service huddle around him to tell his supporters to fight. Now, this shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone following Trump and his relationship with the media, but I wanted to talk about this particular clip of his supporters shouting at the media as they filed out of the rally site. Take a look.
You remember what you called. This is your fault. You. This is your fault. Every last one. This is your fault.
Now, I think most would agree that mainstream media, maybe minus Fox News, has been harder on Trump than they were on Obama or Biden. For example, you may remember the whole kids in cages thing that blew up under Trump. Well, here's a story from 2014 showing the proverbial kids in cages in Arizona. The author writes, "They are fed and clothed, kept clean and cool, far better off than if they were walking through the desert in June temperatures." So that was the tone of the coverage in the same kids in cages under Obama. Now, those images were available to many journalists. I was working at a newspaper in 2018 when this became an issue under Trump, and I remember going into Getty Images and seeing the exact same images of kids in cages under Obama that journalists found so shocking under Trump. Interestingly, though, I can no longer find those images on Getty. But plenty of journalists had access to those images because Getty is one of, if not the biggest, newswire services for the media in the world. Similarly, when Biden starts building a wall 2.5 years into his presidency, it's just a blip in the news cycle. Now, those are just a few examples of where something that a Democratic president did hardly made the news, while something Trump did turned into a national scandal. But there are plenty more like them. So, going back to the Trump supporters, it's understandable why they would blame the media for this event, but we still don't know the shooter's motives. A quick side note here, even though the shooter's name and details about his life are all out in the media now, I've decided not to name him. And it's for the same reason that journalists generally don't report on suicides. it encourages copycats. If people feel like their death will bring them recognition, that could be a powerful motivator for someone who feels neglected, overlooked, or unloved. And unfortunately, it's the same with mass shooters. Some people are so starved for attention that they would rather die in infamy than live in mundanity. Now, so far, we don't have a lot of info on the shooter's motive. Anonymous law enforcement sources have been leaking to the media that he wrote on a gaming platform, "July 13th will be my premiere, watch as it unfolds." According to the New York Times, he also used his cell phone and other devices to search for images of Mr. Trump and President Biden, along with an array of public figures. So while it's tempting to say that the media, or even Trump's rivals, whipped the shooter into a frenzy of hate towards Trump, we don't know yet whether that's the case. His motivations could have more to do with him wanting to be famous, or in this case infamous, than him harboring any particular animus for the former president. It's been reported he was a registered Republican at the time of the shooting, but that he gave a $15 donation to a Democratic organization when he was 17. He also reportedly searched for information about depression, which again could prove to be a bigger factor than his feelings about Trump. Now, the other fallout from this whole thing is the backlash that happened when MSNBC took its show Morning Joe off air on Monday. An anonymous source told CNN they did this to avoid a scenario in which one of the show's stable of 24 guests might make an inappropriate comment on live television that could be used to assail the program and network as a whole. Co-hosts Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski said they were told there would only be one breaking news feed that day and that all other opinion shows would be canceled. However, both Nicole Wallace and Ari Melber had their shows air that evening. The Morning Joe co-hosts didn't hold back on their criticism of their employer the next day.
We were very surprised. We were very disappointed. And if we had known that there wasn't going to be the one news feed from NBC News across all NBC News channels, Willie, we obviously would have been in yesterday morning.
Joe Scarborough speculated that the reason for all of the change is the backlash that ensued after their show didn't air. CNN quoted the ratings company Nielsen as saying 40% of the audience changed the channel when they found out Morning Joe wasn't on. However, the Morning Joe co-host said they were still waiting on an official explanation, and they ended with this parting shot.
Next time we're told there's going to be a news feed replacing us, we will be in our chairs.
We'll be sitting here.
Yeah, and the news feed will be us, or they can get somebody
We'll still
else.
be sitting here.
So that's what I've been seeing in the media sphere. If there are stories you want to see me cover, put it in the comments below. And as always, if you like this video, please share, subscribe, and leave a comment for the algorithm master. Once again, I'm Holly Kellum, and you're watching Newspeak.